because it's a personal experience that happened to me recently. I posted on LinkedIn and there was a bit of my, so to say, advice. And it, because अब हिंदी तो अंग्रेजी थोड़ी कमज़ोर है, इसलिए शायद गलत शब्द का इस्तेमाल किया, तो मैं बताता हूँ आपको. This is for my younger friends who are just starting out or about to begin their careers. Don't at all worry about working for peanuts, as long as you are gaining valuable lessons in a great place. Remember, as long as you stay hungry, even the peanuts with a bit of salt taste amazing.
Gone.
Embrace and enjoy the journey.
How could you? Yes.
Oh, क्या यार उसके
पिटाई हुई है everybody.
वो I think it's the peanuts. The use of word peanuts suddenly took the post into another direction. All I meant was this, that in the beginning, you focus on learning.
Value
learning and experience.
And the more, I'm seeing a lot of this happening, that the restlessness in the newer generation is there because options are many more. Maybe, of course, the inflation, महंगाई बढ़ गई है, you know, so for somebody to come to a city like Mumbai and make ends meet and live a life that he wants to lead and work really hard through the night at times, you know, and not get paid properly. So it must have touched a lot of nerves, which I maybe in my giving out wisdom, which was all in right intent.
Yes.
Yeah? So I got a lot of polarizing, reactions to it. Some real galis also, you know. Yeah. People were not even looking at the seniority of the guy. यार इतना बेचारे ने नाम कमाया है, या इतने साल काम किया है, इतनी brand building करी है. What outright गालियाँ coming from youngsters, you know. Coming from Agra, English not being so very language. So I think the peanut word, working for peanuts.
Roasted almonds bolte to फिर it would have been a little okay.
Is working for peanuts was
some chickpeas instead of chanas.
Yep. I fully empathize. Salary levels have been stuck for years, at least the average. The starting pay compared to, let's say, their own sort of friends and, you know, classmates who go on to other industries, significantly lesser in comparison. I personally sort of narrow all of that down to some of our business model problems as an industry. So one of the reasons for us even leaving a company that we dearly loved and starting afresh, PG and I, 3-4 years ago, was also this, because it felt a little not right. And we started from scratch, and lots of ideas that different agencies can enact. Something that we do, at least ourselves, is 50% of our staff are also shareholders in the company through ESOPs and equity allocations and things like that. So that's a start. It feels like there's skin in the game. But none of that sort of is sort of negates the fact that the salary, which is their daily sort of bread and butter, is pittance compared to everybody else. And if at all we as an industry come together for something, I think that's a great place to start. You know, like a minimum guarantee pay could be an idea.
What would that number be for starting?
So right now, for a fresher off college, 20 point something years, comes into talent, the minimum pay is currently 6.5 per year. That's the absolute minimum, right?
6.5 lakhs.
Yeah. So the industry average currently stands at, and we've studied 45 industries in the country, the industry average is currently 3.75.
Oh wow, so you're giving a
advertising industry average. For a fresher, 20 years old approximately, first year in advertising, that's the start.
I feel we're also going into a stage in the industry, you know, particularly where we've gone through one phase where there has been terribly high salary inflation as you go up 1 year, 2 year, 3 years to 7 years. Like I have people, some of them working with me 7 years, 10x growth in 4.5 to 5 years. So I think there will also be some amount of, you know, as the base gets more fortified, the salary inflation, the incremental as we go up ranks, that will also kind of start to streamline. I think that's already happening and will happen. So, you know, that, and if you look at the industries in the West, like I was surprised to see that, you know, you said typically UK market, we have studied it a little closely, UK market will be 2.5 times of us as far as purchasing power parity is concerned. But at senior levels, and I mean when I say senior also, I say it with a bit of leeway, because 8 to 12 years, Indian salaries are actually higher than UK salaries on equal basis. So I think at places where responsibilities there, India pays pretty well.
True.
It's the junior rung which is which is kind of getting eroded. And I think also things like this, which is once the standards are set a bit high, I think this also is a natural process. We are almost there, that the junior salaries are getting higher because the demands are getting there. Even the institutions are pushing it. Institutions are saying you have to go at 6, 5, can't go below that.
No, which is good. Yeah, you're right that after a point in time, the salaries become really good.
Yeah.
And at really senior level, if you have gone through that grind and achieved that,
Yeah.
then they're really good.
Yeah.
So I think that incremental, that alpha every time
Yeah.
could come down, could become better. you
Yeah.
know. And maybe that's the way for the agency heads to look at, which is from that pool. I know it's Rajesh is smiling at me, saying that's not so easy, But I think it's something as we are saying in this room, like everything we've been discussing, it's something to
Yes.
talk about.
It is, of course, and I think everyone's trying to do their bit, like Gautam mentioned. So we also start off fairly high, both for graduate and for postgraduates, much higher. Many of the people over here, I ping them every year to check, bhai sahab kitna de rahe ho is bar, and I try my best to outpay it.
Yeah, okay.
And I can say with confidence that we've done that in the 9 years that we've been around. Shit, I don't think as people we are the typical lala mentality कि नहीं मेरे को अपने पास ही रखना है वहाँ पे सिर्फ आधा % ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
Yeah.
We all
होगा ही
want
नहीं,
to-
चलेगा नहीं industry.
Yep.
And we want everyone to, I think we're all from a very different mindset. We want everyone to have a great life, okay? But it has to start from people at the top, agency heads and others, fighting and demanding and convincing and cajoling and persuading clients for the right value. Only then you'll have something to pass down, otherwise you're not going to have it.
Thing about fighting for good talent and all, it's a very interesting one from our perspective at one of the agencies in the group.
Because both of you represent the big boys, right?
Yeah,
now, in
well,
terms of
actually-
agencies.
Actually, in our case, my predecessor, the great A.G. Krishnamurthy, created an institution which supplied talent to our
true.
industry, where today you've got, Mudra birthed Mica,
Yep.
right? From where we have spawned CEOs of marketing companies, CMOs globally, not just in India, by the way, right? CEOs and agency leaders, right? And it's hard to go back on campus today and compete for that talent in an institution that was founded by our industry.
Absolutely, very true.
Right. So I think this thing of, again, to go back to the conversation on compensation, I take a pragmatic view on this. I think you've got to look at your own agency structure. You've got to decide what kind of business you're in. You've got to find a way of pricing better. I think the identification of the stars in your system and being able to fast track them, right? To say that, listen, we will, that kind of 3x, 4x in 3 years, 4 years, it makes a huge difference, right? So there's some things you can control, some things you can't. There is a certain, because at entry level also different departments, different
Contribute
disciplines.
differently.
They contribute differently.
Right,
यार अब इसको भी standard कर सकते हो कि नहीं? I mean, you could make a case for strong employer brands that if you're an attractive company, you're able to attract people at a slightly lower price, perhaps, right? And that's part of,
Yes,
the
absolutely.
reverse of extracting a premium if you're
See, also to be
a buyer, that gives you leverage. So this
But
is
that's again debated by people.
No, people can
Which is
debate
that
that,
if you
Sonal,
are- huh?
but I think to add to what Aditya said, correct, and I think one of the bits which has stayed with me is what Khazanchi mentioned some time back, and I think eventually that is a important, eventually they're all related, is agencies used to be a really special place with interesting people doing interesting things, and there was something in the air over there. So many of us, when we came into this industry, were cognizant of the fact that we will be making much lesser money even than our peers then, by the way. And I think also the people who come to us aren't chasing just bucks. So I think the bit being discussed is, should there be healthy compensation so that they don't feel short-shifted and uncomfortable? But I do believe that those who come into our kind of professions, creative professions in general, there are other drivers for that as well. And I think where we find ourselves struggling as an industry is that earlier at least we got the other big bits going really well and the money was comparable. Abhi, the money is also incomparable, and the magic and the aura and all those stories that a lot of youngsters today had seen and
they are
had
missing
heard,
that.
they're missing that. So, wo bhi idhar aa gaya, ye bhi niche aa gaya. And therefore, suddenly this whole talent attraction piece is becoming a little tough
I
for
think also,
everyone.
to your point about extracting value, there is a lesson to be learned from the professional services in consulting, because, and I think the lesson that we need to learn is how much information we have access to. So, you can show more value if you can see the value fructifying into something. And I think one of the big problems today in agency client equations is that there is far too much opaqueness as far as trying to understand what moves the needle is concerned. There might be some exceptions, like, Navin, you might be an exception on that. But by and large, across the ecosystem, how well entrenched you are, what needle you moved, and then if you link your people to the needle, then they know they are so valuable to moving the needle for that company. That attracts more compensation and that creates a bigger pie.
I'll tell you a funny story on, since you mentioned consulting. So that other half of Sideways business, which is non-brand and non-advertising. So we did a project for a bank, which was reimagining one of their credit card journeys. So this is all new for me, boss. अगर कोई मुझसे पूछता 10 साल पहले कि तुम फेविकॉल कैडबरी कहानी लिख रहे हो, इस टाइप का काम करो, I wouldn't have thought. So I'm very curious to get feedback कि boss अब क्या कर रहे हैं. When I make a good film, I know I've made a good film, but is the other stuff, is it genuinely decent, or am I just drinking my own Kool-Aid and like really happy about it? So I went to this guy after the project was completed, and I said, you know what, how was your experience? Did you believe that we added any value, etc., etc.? And of course, he was very complimentary and good, and I would like to be, it was good because, we've been working successively with them on other projects. But he said, he was a well-wisher, he said an interesting thing. He said, you should know this, that for the project that you've taken $100, we were actually discussing the same project with BCG, and they were quoting about 400. And we were about to go in there with them when we met you. So his whole point was, but see, I'm also a little stuck because I come from an agency background, so people sort of anchor you over there. Unless they have the first round of experience of our non-advertising work, they're like, ठीक है, बाकी लोग 100 ले, तुम 110 दे दूंगा, 120 ले लो, 150 ले लो, 200 ले लो, मगर वो जो 500-600 किसी और को दे रहा हो, वो तो तुमको नहीं देने वाला.
At least 250.
So it'll come slowly, it'll take time, but yeah, that's a valid point. I think we'll have to demonstrate.
Rajesh, your point on, sorry, on the
peanuts.
Peanuts, on the peanuts.
Right, let's discuss.
Let's call them almonds.
Almonds.
When you are there in the agency to learn, then those are almonds. Yeah. Should have used the right word.
I think the problem is more than the peanuts. There's a new set of generation which is coming into work.
Yep.
Okay. Most of us have had over 15-20 years of experience in the industry, and we have our own aspiration, motivation, how we look at work, how we look at work-life balance, and how do we look at money versus experience and so on and so forth. I just feel that we need to start breaking down stuff which we had in our heads and try and understand this audience which is coming. We are advertising people.
Yeah, sure.
एक नया audience अपने organization में आ रहा है. हमको उनको समझना जरूरी है.
Yep.
Because I think we can't have a thumb rule of saying this is how we got motivated or this is how we worked.
Correct.
I think all those parameters are going to change. I'm not saying that you have to change the basic culture, fabric of the organization that you work with, and some belief systems which are foundationals are necessary.
Yep.
But we need to make changes in ourselves, and most of the time I think the evaluation parameter is always like when we were like this at their age.
Yep.
I have younger kids at 10, 12 years of experience coming in saying, when are you profiling us in media? मेरा तो Facebook, Meta कुछ भी पेज ही नहीं है.
True.
So but you have to evolve. You can't just keep your benchmarks of saying this is how. And then payment, I think, or remuneration is a part of it. Of course, like all of them said, it's what value you can extract from clients, but we have to constantly work on it. Like for example, we have really worked on it in the last 7-8 years to increase our base salary. We are sitting at somewhere around 5.5, 6 lakhs as base salary. So it's a constant effort, but it is an acceptance of the fact that this generation which is coming into work is very different from what
It is, yeah.
how we are.
So we spoke about the institute and all of that, and I came to this industry not just 10, 15 years ago, I came to this industry 30 years ago, right? The remunerations were shit even at that time, right? They were terrible, right? So when I took up a job in an agency, it was about 1/4 of the median what the rest of the batchmates would be going. I'm not even talking about the super high paid kind of people. But उस time में ना एक चीज चलती थी with most of the people on the table will recognize, and we have not heard this in a really long time. What they used to say about advertising is that is the most fun that you can have with your clothes on.
Correct.
You say this line to anybody who's like, you know, got 4 years, 3 years, 0 number of years. I was like, where? What fun, right? So I think while we're doing a lot to, you know, look at the compensations and so on and so forth, same here, right? It's not a case for lesser compensation and all that. We also are definitely better than the industry standards and all. What we are not doing enough as an industry is again looking at the culture which made it seriously amazing. I did not go to, you know, let's say a levers chuna bhi nahi unne, right? But I didn't even go for an interview with any of these because I was enamored by what I could possibly bring to the table over here. I think if we bring that back in, the idea is not just the compensation, the idea is the attractiveness of this industry, right? That I want to be a part of this and I can.
And it's advertising's good fortune that you didn't go to levers.
And not just the
the
culture.
enjoyable place. I mean,
See, what is enjoyable, and I'll tell you what, and it eventually, like we've all discussed, it will always come back to the work. Earlier, there was aura around so much of the work which we were fortunate enough to be part of, okay? And the youngsters saw it and said, I want to be a part of that, I want to be a part of that, etc., etc. So that aura around the work is sort of, I think, diminishing. That's my little bit. That chatter, okay, earlier people would say, you know, on dinner table conversations, films would be discussed and some would say, Arey, uski chacha ki uski film thi, vagara, vagara. You get inspired and you go, so you heard all these stories. Now all that has also come down. So I think that many of the folks aren't that enamored of
Not that enamored.
of what's going on.
Yeah, but that is again the reality of not that good work is not happening. Great stories are being good films are being made. Right, still.
I mean,
but because there's again.
Sonal, I'll be honest.
Multiplicity.
This is my personal thing. The word I used to use in Ogli, they've heard me, and I say it now is, I think we have to be ruthless with ourselves. Okay, hand on heart is really magical work which every third, fourth person over here is talking about, etc., happening over there, and the proportions that was happening, I don't
proportion
think so.
maybe might have
I don't
come
think
down,
so. I'll tell you what.
It's
a
also
cynical bit. I'll tell you, Sonal, just to complete my point.
Yeah.
A cynical piece is, I feel one of the sort of devils in this whole game is LinkedIn. I'll be very honest. It's a very odd thing. We say social media can be bad. Boss, LinkedIn is social media. Why do we forget that? Why do we think it's just a really amazing corporate?
It is. Yeah,
okay?
Of course, it is.
So many people are only playing to that gallery. Okay, and are absolutely detached from what's happening on the streets. And I think somewhere that is adding to that mismatch कि हम लोग बहुत खुश हैं 6 लोग यहाँ पे ताली बजा रहे हैं लाइक बटन वगैरह कर रहे हैं बट जो पहले चर्चा होती थी जो आजकल OTT प्लेटफॉर्म्स
नहीं बट चर्चा का मैं बताता हूँ the time that we were in there was only ZTV to begin with that started then the screens were so few right
you would see that
yeah and no therefore any great ad made big waves because that was the only abhi there's so much to see so much that many people don't even get to see good work
I agree. So we should strive even harder, no?
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I'm not disputing that it is much tougher. All those bits are there. I'm not even saying ads. Aajkal, you have opportunities of doing so many amazing other activations which capture people's imagination.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is work happening on all fronts,
I think
right?
there is a lot happening. We should celebrate that work so much more, build aura around it. I think those are the bits also to be done.
Those bits we need to do.
Yeah.
Just
the other quick one, right?
Before I point on the salary front.
Yeah.
You know, I completely agree with VR. You know, we should sometimes, we are so short-sighted because we are supposed to run a P&L. If you look at because we're talking starting salaries, if you look at people who have got 0 to 3 years experience in your entire salary distribution, you'll realize that actually we paid them only about 10% of your total salaries. Only 10% of total salaries go to people between 0 to 3 years experience. Because you're paying them 5 year and 10 year who are doing well 5x,
Yeah,
6x.
sure.
So actually it's just sometimes 6.5 lakhs becoming 8 lakhs is not going to kill you.
Yeah, true.
It's not going to kill you. But you'll have happier, more excited, more, and they're coming in with passion. So if you remove this headache in their heads about thinking about money, then all they do is do the great work. And then you can extract the value. So sometimes we are also very short-sighted. हम सोचते हैं अरे इनको इतना क्यों दें? Actually आप बहुत कम, बहुत थोड़ा ज़्यादा दोगे तो.
Yep, something to think about.
You know,
and
it's
I'm
not
sure
going to get
people
destroyed.
think about it every day, but maybe with a lot more focus. One other thing I wanted to know, you brought up the point that थोड़ा fun कम हो गया है, and everybody talks about it. Part of it is also nostalgia, कि हमारे ज़माने में ज़्यादा fun था. And
like
part
they say,
of it might be,
nostalgia isn't what it used to be.
Part of it might also be true because again the amount of work that's there and how much faster it's required has gone multifolds. You know, it's just required that much faster. Is that with all that happening, how are you people building, bringing back the fun in your agency, the culture, the is there anything? What all do you do? They might be learning for others, you know.
It's very, very intangible. Again, no one size fits all sort of a scenario and all that. And I don't even think it's only about fun, right? A young guy who's coming in and he's getting heard, he's getting appreciated. His idea over even a senior guy's idea, because it's a better idea, is getting taken across to the client. Whether the client liked it or not, there is a pat on the back. Definitely goes a long way. Of course, you know, the fun part of it is needed. There'll be the regulation workshop offsite and all of those. But the more we are, like we are an agency of others, yeah, right? It's a very,
no, I
very,
meant that only, the holistic fun, the culture of a place, that this is the way we do things.
So मैं एक बहुत अजीब चीज बताता हूँ. In sound, you know, this is the problem with the soft things, that there is no metric to it, there is no, you know, logic to this. I have always strangely believed that any office that we have, whether it's Gurgaon, whether it's Bombay, or we shifted offices anywhere, must have a big terrace balcony or something where people will come down. It'll become like there is an office and then there is a cafe.
Very good.
Right. There is no metric to this. There is no way you can justify this in the P&L. But I know that this balcony, strangely, is my 11th player. Right. It brings a lot of joy to all of what is going. We'll never take an office where there is no balcony. Right. People come together there. They, you know, any agency where there is cohesion, not just with the client and your immediate boss, cohesion across, that's a very strong agency. The attrition in a place like this would be dramatically lower because you got a bunch of friends out there. So all of us, right, at least 10, 15 of us, again, so intangible that sounds like, you know, a laughable thing. We come in and hug 70 people every day, every single freaking day, right? Not because it's a good thing to do, because people like each other by virtue of all the things that have been put together. So yahi hai, I mean, that's...
So this is what I wanted to know. Anything, something different, something specific that you're doing?
Our secret as an agency to fun has been food. Okay, that's the, so of course there's all of it.
My answers are coming out. Now. This is what I wanted.
So of course there's all of it. Young people want the opportunity. Fun one, theek hai, but they are extremely ambitious and they want the opportunity. So I echo that they want to be heard, blah, blah, blah. But wo sab karne ke baad, if there's one kind of emotional thing that we have seen work magically, it's food. We are an agency of foodies and there's non-stop food at Famous. So every morning, all offices of Famous have free breakfast. Okay, please, you're all welcome. In Bangalore, our office is above the legendary Umesh Dosa, and there's breakfast from Umesh Dosa. And you know, you come in the morning because, see, realistically, work starts thoda dheere dheere, right? Everybody comes in the morning. That table, when you sit there, the energy on that table where everybody's just eating, and you have a lot of young people in ad agencies. So they don't have breakfast sorted at home, they eat out, they do all this, you know. When that breakfast is sorted for them, the happiness on that table, people look forward to it. The menus regularly, so people look forward to it, they discuss it. And all of this intangible value you're getting, when you look at the numbers, it's nothing. It won't even show up as a blip on your P&L, but there's so much joy in it. I go to office early just to eat with everybody, you know. So I think that's one secret ingredient is food.
Done so-called offsites where we've taken people out for a week, once to Istanbul, once to Bali. But there's no work, there's no meeting, there's no conference room, there's nothing. You just do what you want to do for a week, switch off, no emails. Clients are told 6 months in advance that these are the dates we're not going to be there. But more apart from that, you know, one of the aspects of fun which Gautam I think was also mentioning, I'm sure everybody's doing it, is also celebrating the work as it gets produced and released.
True.
You know, just get everybody
That's very
together. So I'm
important.
sure everybody's doing that.
Yeah.
But that also has a huge motivational thing.
So
People
we
get
have a-
excited.
We have a little kiddish thing, and we've got 1 or 2 serious initiatives like everybody else. So one of the things which we started off, which was one of my pet peeves from my Ogilvy days, is when we started 10 years back, so we have compulsory winter vacation. Long time back, so basically 10-12 days, and by September the clients are told that from December 20th till 5th Jan nobody will be available.
That's been addressed now, Kinu.
Well done, thank you so much.
Even we
Very
take
good.
off
Yeah.
12 days. 10, 12
Rajesh,
days.
you,
No, let me finish.
And the other kiddish thing that we have is because we are not so many, we are much smaller agency, we can afford to be a little bit more intimate. So when we celebrate each other's birthday, cake smashing is on the faces compulsory. That is it. There is no escaping.
Very good.
It's just a little thing, but yeah, the little things people enjoy.
All these things keep happening, so each office celebrates a festival, which has been happening for years. Their food has now become a big thing in some of the offices because we have pop-up cafes coming up every day. So there is a new home chef who's coming in. HR is driving that exercise every day. So we have parties and so on and so forth. I think one of the things that I realized, and that is because it's me, Sonal, Navin and Kinu will tell you how I was. I was a rogue. What I've realized
Was?
No, what I've realized is that everything is not about strategizing how you're going to create fun in the office, right? I think we have stopped being fun ourselves as leaders. To your point on hugging and all this stuff, I don't know how much time really we take out because it kind of flows from the top.
true.
So at least I believe in infusing a lot of fun myself in whatever we do. There are multiple ways of doing it. I think we are all intelligent to know what to do and all. But I feel sometimes because a lot of people come and tell me that I have changed. Okay, and
Which
it
will,
happened.
which will be tragic because VR was the most fun guy in
I remember.
in Ogilvy. It will be tragic if he doesn't dance like
Yeah,
that.
so I just keep going back to my
What
own
you were.
immature self and all those stuff. And I think as leadership, we have to do that. Sometimes we have to put our guards down, be one with the people,
Absolutely.
have fun. Not so much. I think the worries nowadays is so much कि अभी कैसे behave करना है, कैसे नहीं behave करना है, अभी क्या post होगा, क्या post होगा. All that. I think we have to, as leadership, we have to first put our guards down and also have fun ourselves. Only then it will flow.
Yeah, and plus one thing that I've always loved about our profession, and I think if people don't realize, they have to realize that, youngsters and everybody, is that every day or every second day you're working on a completely different product. You know, from fashion to cars to this to this
and
to
we
this.
accept
You know,
everybody. You can come from whatever field.
yeah, true. And you can come from any field.
No, no,
Plus you
that
work
atmosphere is
on
amazing.
so many different industries here,
Without
which
doubt.
is such a
And to not forget that,
and-
every day.
and target audiences which are so diverse, about our business.
There's no monotony at all.
Yeah, no monotony.
Once we had these finance guys spending a lot of time in our office for some reason, and they were astounded. They were like, so you guys come here and just think of ideas.
Yep.
In our company, if we have an idea, we are scared to share it because an idea is such an anomaly, right? It's like you're coming up with something radical. Do you really have the authority to come up with that, etc.? You come here and think of ideas all day. We're like, yeah, what a
Absolutely.
job, right?
Yeah,
Just-
so the realization that you might be getting peanuts, we might be getting peanuts.
No.
We might be getting
None
peanuts.
of us are endorsing
Okay.
that. Okay, Sonal,
Okay, we might be getting.
nice try.
Okay. We might be. but no,
Caramelized
but
peanuts with a little
Okay.
bit of
Let's
Himalayan
forget
salt.
on this table we are forgetting peanuts from.
Yes, please, thank you.
We are being given almonds, let's say.
Yes.
for just thinking stories.
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? For
privilege.
thinking jokes.
I tell everyone, boss,
For thinking
there is no
stories,
other-
for thinking poetry, for thinking music, for thinking songs. You know,
Yeah, and you know the benefit
we are
of
being
this
paid for that.
is also that when you are like that, you attract people that are like that. So the one thing about fun and culture that you're talking about, if you see the entire agency, it's full of characters, and this you hear about every agency,
Yeah,
right?
true.
It's not one. It's full of characters. It's full of these crazy people. So just spending time with them is so much
But
fun. It's a privilege.
ये
you
चीज
know?
ना बहुत ज्यादा नहीं बात करेंगे नहीं तो फिर क्लाइंट क्या बोलेगा तुम लोग मजे भी कर रहे हो पैसे भी
हाँ,
चाहिए
पैसे-
ऐसे वही ना
पैसे
होता है यार
भी-
हम लोग इतना थोड़ी ना हंसते हैं दिन भर
नहीं बट इस पॉइंट पे कनंड्रम है कि साथ मिलके कुछ क्रिएट करना और इंटरेक्शन मीटिंग क्रेजी पीपल एंड ऑल दो स्टफ इज फन. अभी मुझे पता नहीं माइक्रोसॉफ्ट टीम्स में ये कैसे करूं मैं बिकॉज आधे स्क्रीन तो बंद ही होते हैं. ठीक है सॉरी गौतम आई एम नॉट सेइंग फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू of whether it's the right thing to do or not, but that's people not coming together is also already I feel a downer in terms of fun, the whole excitement of meeting and doing things together. That is, I'm sure that we have to find right balance, but that is something which I don't understand. It's like I have to come onto screen and ask people to switch on videos. अभी उसके ऊपर भी बहुत सारे views हैं कि क्यों करें क्यों नहीं करें and all those stuff. ये सब एक बड़ा
उगलवी को हाइब्रिड बंद कर देना चाहिए.
अपन ऐसा कुछ नहीं बात करेंगे अभी.
But see, it might be for Reghunath's agency, it might be a decision they've taken. It might be it might be possibly the reality of the situation. But I am also with you that when people meet, interact, then great things happen. But
But that is where I go back to the earlier point. I think हमको समझ में नहीं आ रहा है शायद. And it's all we have to keep learning.
तो अभी कुछ इंडिविजुअल क्वेश्चंस पूछते हैं, राइट? तो पहले कीनू आपसे
बताइए
which is that and there are others also here who were earlier part of this mammoth big agencies and then started on their own. What is it that you took from there, but what are the new things that you brought in here? I believe your hiring policies are also pretty different in terms of the kind of people you hire. So
yeah, I mean that's because of the nature of company we built.
True.
So actually, just to tell you, when I started Sideways, when I left Ogilvy, I had no clue what I'm going to do. I quit without a plan. I had no idea. In fact, I was telling this time flies. 2 days back, I finished 10 years of leaving Ogilvy, and time's flown. So I quit without a plan, and Sonali and I, we were just thinking, kya kare, kya nahi kare. And at some point, we stumbled upon the idea of Sideways. And quite honestly, I was up for an adventure. I just wanted to just learn. It's a very personal journey. And one of the things is I'm greedy. I enjoy everything from tech to commerce to storytelling to everything. So I said, okay, it'll be nice to get people with different skill sets onto the table, attack problems in an interdisciplinary way. So let's see how it goes. So that's how the whole thing started. So yes, so now I knew I needed the engineer kind of guys, I needed industrial designers, so I would go to places like NID to hunt for people who are specialists in their domains, but also the critical bit was enjoy collaborating. So the initial years for us were interesting because how do you get a guy who's a techie sitting next to a storyteller, sitting next to an industrial designer to jam on the same brief, contribute from their perspectives, and then hopefully some good things come out. That was the thesis. It's building dheere dheere, but yeah, it's been fun. So my filters basically find people who are specialists in different domains, but enjoy collaborating and belief in the fact that in today's complicated world, you need interdisciplinary solves. You can't sit in silos and solve for them. That's what we have.
One more question which I'll ask all of you is that suppose there's a young business head who's just gotten into that position,
Yeah.
is seeing this roundtable of ours. Is there what would you like to tell him, or any one tip that you'd like to give? Or
You have to enjoy what you're doing. That's the most important thing, and you have to have clarity on why you're doing what you're doing. I think if there is no inner conflict when it comes to that, I think the rest will all fall into place. It's many a time what happens is what you genuinely want at the core of your heart, and what you end up doing when they are in conflict is when you start feeling anxious कि यार करना मैं कुछ और चाहता था, हो कुछ और रहा है. But if you know exactly, like I said, in my mind, I was very clear, I'm here for an adventure, and I really don't, like, for the first, by the way, Sonali, my partner, should have been here because she's the actual business head who runs the agency. You know, I'm just like a substitute for her right now. But like I knew first 6-7 years at least, I was not going to care too much about P&L, this, that, all that. I was up for an adventure and I was okay for a roller coaster ride. No such deep nuggets.
Mithila, question to you. You have said that advertising is overwhelmingly, unapologetically, unabashedly a boys' club. You started at Famous being an intern from the time that you were an intern to now leading the agency. How did you navigate your career, and what do you think can be done to bring more women into leadership positions? Although it's increasing now, but
what worked for me is speaking up very boldly and clearly, regardless of what station I was at. And I was fortunate that I had a boss and mentors and clients who appreciated that, right? More than anything, I would credit the clients. I had people like the CEO of Aditya Birla Fashion saying, it's okay as long as Mithila is coming for the meeting, right? You don't need to call other people. When, say, I was a account manager, right? So when clients show a vote of trust in somebody, agencies follow suit, right?
True.
So, but I think that was what worked for me. But I know that a lot of people don't have that same level of confidence or the same platform where they can openly speak up. I think for women, I have seen this firsthand. Men negotiate salaries so much more aggressively than women. Men and women of the same level are, say, until recently, our Bangalore office was divided in 2 business heads, right? Divided in 2 and they were running it. 1 guy, 1 girl. Same level of experience, same level of talent, blah, blah. Every interaction I could feel, he negotiates so much harder for his right than she does, right? We were paying them equally because they had the same role and blah, blah, blah. But that difference is so stark. So I think women need to speak more clearly, speak more boldly, negotiate and fight for themselves. And then that is on the women's part. But then, of course, the ecosystem also has to change.
True.
See, I think Titan gave me this metric, okay? We all talk about the ratio of men to women in companies, right? In Titan, they talk about, of course, men to women in leadership, which is the second filter, right? How many mothers to men, right? How many mothers are there in leadership? That's the level to which they publish a metric internally every year.
How many?
Right? Mothers,
okay.
right? So how many women have been able to have a baby and they are still in
be
leadership positions or senior positions? They publish that metric internally every year, right? So I think those are the lessons that I have taken from a lot of women around me who've been like mentors to me, and I'm trying to kind of bring into the agency. It's still in advertising. It's very difficult to find a creative head who's a woman who's also steering the agency, right? You look across agencies. Look at this table. I'm the only woman here, Sonali being substituted, but that dichotomy still exists. I think women have to fight harder and the men have to fight harder. That's the only way it'll change. Again, once clients start accepting, agencies follow suit very often. So clients also should be in this battle with us, and I've been fortunate in that case.
I have a slightly, I want to say, slightly naive point of view, and my only experiences are honestly at Ogilvy and at Sideways. Yeah, I don't remember ever there being a conversation about should we hire, not hire, front this business, not front this, because this is a man or a woman. It's never been this. Actually, I'll be very honest, and this is a chat I was having with somebody. At least I've been fortunate enough to be in a place where, or 2 places where it's always been on the merit of who's a better account person.
No, true.
So
But
I don't know where
what
this comes
Mithila
from.
saying was different.
But where this comes from?
I think what
So
the point she's making is the women themselves
Also
are
connected to that.
a little
So,
less outspoken.
I don't think
Maybe it's
overtly
yeah.
in any company or agency, I don't think overtly somebody will say male or female and hire accordingly. But hand to heart, how many tables have you sat at where there are jokes being cracked that you know the woman at the table is uncomfortable with, right? So I think what ends up happening is because that environment is such that dhire, 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 the women get weeded out. We all know.
But all that is changing now.
Yeah,
in a
of
very
course
big
it's
way.
changing.
from
Very
day
big
one,
way.
by the way, from day one, we've
Very
always
big
been
way.
more women than men. Okay, for some reason. But like I said, this struck us when somebody asked.
Yeah.
I genuinely like to believe that advertising in general is a business which is highly meritocratic. You know, I want a great writer, I want a great art director, I want a great designer, I
It
want a
is,
great
yeah.
studies. That's what I want. I don't. Let's put it this way. I find it strange that a business an agency head will say, basically, we keep saying we're not getting great talent. Why will you put any kind of a filter on that talent when that talent is a man or a woman? If the talent is phenomenal, the talent goes up. And like I said, it's been our experience with, I've been only in Ogilvy and sideways, I don't know how it's outside.
But the industry statistics are different.
No, it's
right?
important to say,
obviously,
acknowledge
something
what
to-
she's saying.
maybe-
Because it's true that if the jokes are a certain way, if the way of being is a certain way, if the the negotiation that you speak about, that is a certain way, if organizations are not prioritizing that, that's a challenge. Another thing is also supply is a limitation. You know, if I look at our agency at below 30, it's more women than men. But above 30, you just don't have enough people you can put also in those designations. So we also need to see how we can be maybe we need to listen to the women. Part of it is also this work-life balance, prioritizing that a woman needs to be with family. Even men should be with family. If we are, we are saying we are ultimately selling time. So as a result, we keep working into the night, and then that's not possible beyond a point.
And thankfully,
everything you've said is absolutely right. I think there's a structural problem. I know it's not just advertising. You see it in all aspects. We're a reflection of society. We're a mirror of culture. We're a mirror of society. And I think there is a systemic level, right? And agencies must also acknowledge that there are barriers, there are biases. Many of them are unintended. The evidence is stark. We simply, if it was all merit, you would see a much higher representation of women in positions of influence, in positions of leadership. We have a lot of work to do in that area. And I think that work is just about start. So now to your point, I think there's definitely a much deeper recognition of it. I think there's an acknowledgement that work needs to get done and that we have to
Which
target
in itself
those.
is a great start.
I think it's a good start, and I think, but this the fact is it's a long journey, lots of work to be done there. I think we must acknowledge that there is, and I don't think that's unique to advertising, by the way. I think across in the business world, in wherever power accumulates, it accumulates in favor of men.
Yep.
There is
But
there's no dispute.
That even
We
I
live
have
in a gendered
noticed,
world and we have
it's
to fight
the negotiations or asking for what you deserve is much meeker, somehow because of possibly all these reasons, and that
also,
maybe needs to
that
change
also
from
means,
from, as you are saying.
I think more
need
people
to
should talk about
encourage
it.
encourage and tell them to be a little more out there, a little more.
The only solution
talk a lot
to
more
that
about
is process, because if you are able to create process that is meritocratic, that is not on your negotiation skill but on the impact that is generated, which is more in black and white, then it's more predictable as a structure to reward where the impact is.
Yeah, true.
So and that's what happens in more mature industries. And that then makes it a safer environment to attract all kinds of people. And then diversity actually breeds better success.
True,
so,
absolutely.
That's something to learn again from other professional services, which we can take a leaf out of.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie. So the effort has to be intentional.
Yeah.
My second question, which is if you were to give a tip to somebody who's coming into the position of
a business head.
let's say a girl taking on that.
So I mean, I can very easily get this because I'm exactly in that role. I took over as CEO of Famous 2 years ago. I think first, without the gender lens, I think that you have to be very clear what your priorities are, right? What is it that you really want to achieve? What is your plan, right? Otherwise, as soon as you're in that position, you're dragged into so many 100 things. Like bulb bhi fix karna hai to CEO ka kaam hai, it's like that. That's a common joke. So I think that if you want to be a good leader to that agency, you cannot solve every problem, but you have to be very clear what your priorities are. I have decided my priority is high value, consistent clients, right, who trust us, do good work, etc. So I will go after that and hold that very tight. Baki sab upar niche hoga, correct? So either way, this is what I have decided. Somebody else can decide something else, because I think from there everything flows. If you get paid well, you pay people well, culture improves, everything, blah blah blah. Coming to specifically to a woman, if they've become a new business head, it takes a lot of confidence and pushing yourself from within. If you are in a room full of men, or at least in a room where the key decision makers are always men, right? There is a certain level where you don't relate as easily as, say, a woman to woman. So you have to keep pushing yourself more and more. Lean in the cliche sense, but it is a reality. It takes a lot more today for me to sit here and speak up. I have to keep making sure that I push myself. So I think women should do that and just not hold back.
And a quick one, what will you say to a new...
A business head.
Yeah.
Most business folks, at least in talented, understand that again, the business is a function of the work, and we'd like our business folks getting into the dirt with creative. They're a part of the process. I know a lot. I mean, I know that historically it's been a little bit of a friction between creative and business, but we want to encourage that in talented a lot more. So yeah, my ask of most any business that who joins is, yes, get into the dirt, be a part of the creative process, because ultimately the business is going to be a function of producing consistently good creative work.
Excellent. And your any one tip that you'd like to give to?
See, I think this is something that we follow even in Enormous, and I don't know any better, so I would say it to somebody else who's somewhere else as well. What I tell our business guys is that don't be interested in your business. Don't be interested in your business will take care of itself. You be interested in the client's business, right? The biggest problem with this industry and in the way a lot of us go on is that हम बाहर pitch करते हैं, ये करते हैं, फलाना करते हैं, and you have a leaky bucket. So you always have a long tail of people who are clients who are leaving. You concentrate on what will bring value to their businesses. How will you be a better agency to those people? The more you do it, and interesting statistic in the last 4 years, which is when I said we changed course as an agency, we've lost just one client in the last 4 years. It's roughly unheard of, right? Touchwood and all that. Yeah, asli wood hai na? So and that also because they wanted a dramatic fee reduction, blah blah blah, many reasons and all of that. The more you concentrate on what you're doing for the client, your business will take care of itself. The word will spread, right? And you will keep on, growing your business also, and be a idea junkie, be a enthusiasm junkie, right? Infect the agency with, what people come to this place for, clients and people included. We should be good, man. I mean, don't worry about the top line, bottom line. वो हो जाएगा.
Great. We are. Sir. आप बहुत चुप बैठे थे तो मैंने आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ. And this is quoting you.
उसके पहले मैं एक इनके पॉइंट पे कुछ बोलना चाहूँगा.
हाँ जरूर please.
Pulling back.
Please.
So we have very good senior leadership sitting on top. There's Hepsi, who's the chairperson.
Kenas,
there is Kenas. There is Frisch, who's the CFO. But I think there are 3 things that we still believe in. We're working very intensively on that. मुझे लगता है bias बहुत subconscious चीज़ है Kinufo. To your point, right? It's like we can talk about meritocracy, but bias बहुत ही subconscious है. Culturally tuned है हमारे सब लोग के अंदर. हमें समझ में नहीं आता कि what are the kind of evaluation we are doing when we are looking at people. And then the biasness is just not about women. It can be anything. It can start with, hey, you live far off. Can you come and work late hours? That's a bias, right? So when it comes to this issue, there is a lot of biasness. And I think what we are doing, along with WPP and Ogilvy, we're doing a lot of training program with men for them to identify where biasness comes. Because there are things which are subconscious. If you don't keep telling them again and again, things don't change. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, I agree with her. I think now after a lot of thanks to all our coaching, I have also and most of the leadership all the leadership has accepted the fact that it's far more difficult for a woman to do things that we find it easy, from in terms of whether it's asking for remuneration, pushing for growth and so on and so forth. So that's an acceptance. And so the third bit that we're doing there, just to correct it, is that I think when they go through different stages in life, things from a career standpoint hits a bump. Right? It doesn't happen to us. We, I think, seamlessly keep moving. So we are identifying those bumps that they hit and trying to see how we can make it seamless for them, easier for them. Like for the whole period of pregnancy to motherhood is a big, how do I say, a kind of a bump for them, right? And we are trying to see how we can make that smooth enough so that it doesn't impact their progress. So those are some ground level things that we'll have to do to kind of improve.
Yeah, sure. And so what I was saying, that was very good point made. As far as the question for you, no, there's a quote that has come to me.
Sir, गलत होगा.
Which
मैंने
is
नहीं
no.
किया है.
It's a very good one. Very good one and very important one. You had said that we have to change the way we think and approach work. Effectiveness and creativity today sit at the intersection of culture, technology, commerce and platforms. Yeah, which is entirely true. And how fast it has changed. Now, Ogilvy has been masters at legacy storytelling, for decades now. 30-second ads, 60-second ads. Over the past few years, as the changes have taken place within the industry and this new demand that has come in the beginning it was slow, but now Ogilvy is there with it, How did you as a leader, navigate? What all did you do to get this expertise in and get it moving?
I think when things are changing around you, one of the things that I feel is very important is to retain certain things which are right about your culture and not let your belief system go off.
Correct.
It's very easy to get swayed by kya ho raha hai. But the other thing that I also felt, we all felt from a leadership standpoint is that we have to create catalysts for our existing people to adopt and adapt to the changes which are happening. और catalyst easy होना चाहिए. So मतलब one of the things that we did was we started a whole practice called creative tech. I can personalize millions of birthday songs for people through technology.
Yep.
Idea कुछ नहीं है ना कि कैडबरी सेलिब्रेशन आपको एक मौका देता है कि आप इनको एक बर्थडे सॉन्ग भेजें जो इनका पसंदीदा गाने से बना हुआ है या इनके टाइप का गाना है, इनका टाइप का, इनके नाम है, इनका ये है. अब इसमें बात करने के लिए पर्सनलाइजेशन, स्केल एंड देयर आर 5 AI टेक्नोलॉजीज गोइंग बिहाइंड इट. किसको क्या मतलब है उससे?
Correct.
So I think that was a catalyst for us. So there were lots of smaller catalysts that we kind of created where people started getting comfortable with technology, started getting comfortable with social.
And then more and more ideas start to happen.
तो ऐसे और वो फिर उसमें वो ideas जीतते हैं तो वो catalyst होते हैं.
हाँ, correct.
Okay, then it's celebrated. So then people want to kind of
be part
do
of
it.
that.
They want to be part of it, and that is the core that we do. In the next 5 years, when content creation, topics on influencer management, performance, and all those stuff, which is anyways getting table stakes, when it becomes table stakes for every agency, then the point will be who's bringing out the best solution using those things, because they are only medium. अभी तो सब लोग भागते हुए घोड़े की पूंछ पकड़ रहे हैं अलग-अलग लेवल.
अभी तो इतने सारे changes हो रहे हैं. अभी I mean we can have one more round table on pure influencer marketing. कि मतलब agency क्या करे उसमें.
तो वही है सर. मतलब अभी I think
which is great.
We have to prep to reach a level where it is not about I don't know how to do this job to how do I now do this better than others. That's where it is.
Any quick tip?
Superb, I love the answer. Superb.
Thank you, sir.
Any quick tip to the younger you who had just taken over?
Do things that you're scared of. Do things that nobody else is doing. And do things that, or change that nobody else wants to change. These are the 3 things.
Nice. Aditya, I worked closely with you in DDB. You were but before that also, before I joined, you were a strategic planner first. By the time I came, you were heading the strategic planning, strategic planners, yeah. And from there, you went on to head DDB Mudra, and now heading Omnicom Advertising Services, which is 3 agencies under you. at every point in time, what were the step up skills you gave yourself, or thinking, or what was the change that you brought upon yourself to go through those 3 different layers, and now to manage?
I think for me, one of the big driving motivations was that as I spent more and more time in the company, I was very lucky to have amazing bosses, a good environment, and given responsibility at various stages that were perhaps not offered necessarily to young people at the agency. So I think that relationship, that opportunity to do big things and to try and fundamentally change how things are done at the agency was a huge driving force. And regardless of what job I did, because there is also the mental barrier, much like you said, I think you have to also tell yourself that, listen, the business is actually quite a simple one, right? Whether you're a strat person or a creative person or account person, it's kind of the basics are all quite same. So I think the first part of that journey is also to kind of make that journey in your own head to say that this is something one can do. I think in my case, it really helped that there was a desire and a kind of a relationship with this company that you've grown in, and the opportunity to make it even better, right? And I think that was a huge driving force in my journey. Take on stuff that you've not done before, even if it scares you a little bit. And you're surrounded by good people, which I've been fortunate to do. It's as simple as that, I think. So I just tried to remind myself of the privilege, of the opportunity, and the great fortune I have of being surrounded by an environment where I have a decent shot at being successful.
And continue to look like young Aditya Kanthy while you do that.
I'll do my best.
Any tip for the younger
He's taking
Aditya
out of
Kanthy?
Sonal Dabral's book.
That's true. Yeah, that's a tough.
Younger Aditya Kanthy. That's all. Little bit of Photoshop, Harshil. Huh. Any tip to the young Aditya Kanthy?
I think
who's just taking over from strategic head to become the agency head?
Particularly for that, talk less, do more, listen really deeply, and ensure that your time reflects your priorities, or what you're saying are your priorities. That's what I would focus on.
Coming to you.
Yes, sir.
Navin, your focus has always been a lot on yours and Kamal's on strategic thinking and business solutions. Just talk a little more about it in terms of how you do that at your agency, your approach.
Yeah. So firstly, most startups in the agency world are started by creative people who've left their agencies. We were possibly one of the few actually started by a planner and an account management person. Yeah. So, and if you looked at our industry at that time when we saw the industry, there's very little emphasis given to planning, a lot of emphasis given to ideas. So we said, because we are from account management and strategy, and because हम कहते हैं कि यार वो डॉक्टर के साथ कंपाउंडर ऑपरेशन करते करते ना खुद भी डॉक्टर बन जाता है. So we'd been around such people like you, Kinu, Piyush, but we had a sense of creative, right? So you think of the womb as a intersection between a marketing consulting firm, a brand consulting firm, and a creative consulting firm. And what you get from us are marketing ideas, not just communication ideas. Communication ideas are part of the marketing ideas. And it was this thinking that actually, or this mindset that led us to Karma. And it actually happened very early in our journey. Because there's a strategy person and an account management person selling an idea to the client's more open to buying crazier ideas.
That makes sense.
Versus a creative person selling because they feel that the creative person has a vested interest, which may not be true at all. Yeah. So that's also helped us. So we push crazier ideas because in today's environment, you need to be slightly off kilter for you to be noticed. And those have worked. And that sort of helped us move forward optimally.
And this, your Karma caravan.
Karma actually.
Karma.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have said Karma only. मैं थोड़ा अंग्रेज बनने की कोशिश कर रहा था. Karma, it was a breakthrough idea, right?
At the time.
At that time, but is there a way the agency works that makes it possible for such ideas to emerge?
I think a lot of us, even to this day, like about a month ago, I was in the market talking to some Britannia cookie consumers. Kaval does that regularly. We're always talking to consumers. Yeah. And that idea, in fact, came to us from we were doing a research for a detergent in a household in Lucknow. और वहाँ पे एक 65 साल का आदमी बैठा हुआ था जो लैपटॉप पे गाना सुन रहा था. तो हमने बोला आप लैपटॉप पे गाने सुन रहे हैं? कहते हैं हाँ आजकल गाने आते कहाँ हैं, रेडियो पे आते हैं रात को 11 बजे के बाद. पहले सीडी कैसेट एलपी होती थी. आजकल तो कुछ मिलता ही नहीं है. ये मेरा पोता छोड़ के गया, मैं सुन रहा हूँ. तो हमने बोला तो आप पहले कैसे सुनते थे? कहते पहले जब टीवी नहीं होती थी तो हम सब साथ में इकट्ठे मिलके वो बिना का गीतमाला सुनते थे रेडियो पे. तो हमने बोला आप गाना सावन क्यों नहीं यूज़ करते हो? उस टाइम तब शुरू हुए थे. कहते हैं कानों में डाल के कौन सुनता है गाने? ऐसे थोड़ी सुन सकते हैं गाने. मतलब रेडियो जैसे कुछ हो तो हम कुछ करें. सो आवर पिच टू द क्लाइंट वाज थिंक ऑफ इट एज एन आईपॉड. उस टाइम आईपॉड बनते थे, बट द फॉर्म फैक्टर इज द रेडियो. सो इट केम फ्रॉम अ कंज्यूमर कन्वर्सेशन.
Nice.
So actually it's just, yeah, it's basics. It's nothing, no rocket science that we've invented. It's just, like I said, doing what we used to do very well, but along the way somehow forgot. We've gone back to basics. And a lot of that we learned, I spent almost 18, 19 years at Ogilvy.
Oh.
Kaval spent 13, 14 years. And like he said, we wouldn't have been even 1/4 of what we are if we hadn't been at a place like Ogilvy and not worked with all of you and Piyush and Rane and everybody.
Any tip to?
Yeah, actually I had given this tip to VR when he became business head.
Nice.
So I'm
you have to repeat it on camera now.
Yeah. So a lot of people think business head is actually P&L management. And I told VR, and I'm saying this to everybody, don't manage the P&L. Manage the quality of work, the P&L will take care of itself.
Nice. Very, very good thought.
That's the output of your agency. Manage the quality of work, the P&L takes care of itself. If you start managing the P&L, you'll destroy the quality of work.
Excellent. Harshil, a question to you now. You're founder all-rounder. Your founder mindset, I'm sure you bring to work every day because it's part of you. How does it aid in the work that you do every day?
I think what I am.
Do you kind of cascade it down, inspire others with it?
Yeah, a bit more impatient. So, if I see in Schbang, I think one thing I'm very proud of at Schbang is that we are, we are very well winning in the search awards. We win well in the media awards. We win well in the Martech awards. We win not as well as we'd like right now in the creative awards, but we've had our share in the creative awards. We will be back in that. So we are, in the tech awards, we are probably one of the, highest in terms of P&L on tech. So I think that ability to give birth to many business lines comes, I think, from that founder mindset and putting that to people and then giving people right incentives to grow that. So that's what I'm proud of. I think that is something that has laid out the framework of defining how we will be seen, which is as the whole shebang. And and I think that also lays well for our strategy of being a India first global player, because a lot of the services that we are good at, we can sell in many different parts of the world. So I think, that is kind of tying in well with what we are doing.
And any tips to?
I mean, everybody said some very nice things, so I was just taking down the notes. So not much to say beyond what everybody said. I think just one point I do want to mention is on AI. I think that AI is, if we watch it very closely, it can be one of the best friends of a business head. Because we are talking about one person running an entire agency, and they're talking about agency in the cloud that way. So if you are running 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, whatever people, if you can do infinitely more with your time. So I think just make that your friend.
So, you know, when we were talking about, because we have come to the end of our fantastic, long-winded conversation, and I really enjoyed it. And there were so many nuggets that one got today, you know, and I'm sure people who are watching it also will get those nuggets and the tips and the learnings. And I mean, there's so much of experience on this table. When we were talking about pitches, there was one story that came to my head. Yeah, I was in Lintas, Delhi, and Delhi being Delhi, winter time, cold. So it's a cold night. Yeah, a small office in Nehru Place, where I am there. My copy partner called Ronnie, he's there, and we are preparing for a pitch, just the two of us. And there is two finishing artists. So there's a small little room, which was our room, the creative room. The rest of the creatives were not there. In any case, it was a very small agency. It was my first job, yeah. So maybe one of my first pitches also. And in that cold December night, shivering also and smoking and trying to keep warm. And there's the pitch ka work going on. And pitch ka work means the bromides have come in and they are being, you know, pasted. And it's like 12:31 at night or even later. And the next morning at 9 o'clock is the pitch. And so we are, you know, smoking, maybe having a drink or whatever, you know, just to keep ourselves warm. And suddenly we got this, some kind of odd light coming from the next room where the artist studio was. So it was just divided by one wall. So one longish room, small longish room, and then another longish room is divided by this wall. And this yellowish light started to come and then got a smell of burning rubber solution. So both of us get up, and as we got up, we heard, oh, fire, fire, fire. So there's this Monty artist and the other artist, I've forgotten the name, that other finishing artist, I think his name was Shafiq, if I'm not mistaken. One of them, Shafiq was smoking, yeah. And suddenly we go there, and the entire, the thing that they are, the layouts, the stack of layouts is on fire, right? And so they're both now out of there because they are saving themselves. This one guy is so, you know, trying to, you know, remove fire from his hand, you know. Anyway, he succeeded. But we are seeing this, you know, fire. So I had seen, that same morning I had seen for the first time near the kitchen, a fire extinguisher this big. So I ran there and, you know, somehow got that really, and then we are reading, you know, how to really operate the fire. Then we broke it, you know, when you read, right? And we broke it and, you know, that white, it was the white powder all over. So we are like trying to, right? And somehow we were able to, the entire studio, small studio, had become white. We had become kind of totally white, you know, covered with powder. This finishing artist also with powder. So 4 of us at 2:30 at night with those layouts all white, yeah. And my copy partner Ronnie, he used to get, you know, a little anxious. So he said, let's call Jen. Jen Bakshi was that time the head of office, and he was the person to lead the pitch, yeah. And let's go. So I said, relax. Why to wake him at 2:30? Let's try to save these layouts. So we picked up the layout and we are trying to brush it, right? What pretty, one big nice headline, and the visual has become all white powdery and half of it is burnt, right? So we somehow cleaned it out. We had 4 layouts, some full burnt, some half burnt, some 1/4 burnt, right? So now what to do? There's no way we could have finished that by the morning because by 6, where to get those printouts and all, bromides, everything was closed. Next day we went to the pitch with those layouts, right? And the headline and copy, headline was there on a slide, yeah? And the visual I described by holding that, right? So I'm describing that straight out of NID, first job, right? I'm describing that. And I came to know the power of bloody storytelling that day. And because we won the pitch. Because these guys were so enamored by the fact that there was a fire. They brought these bizarre looking layouts, and he's telling us this whole, what the visual looks like. And you know, I realized that when you're when you're explaining the visual, because I was free to explain anything, na?
You can add any detail.
So I added to that, blue skies there, you see one yacht there, and this, that, and all that. We won the pitch. And that was absolutely amazing. So that was my pitch story. When we get on to the next round table, I'm sure all of us have some really fascinating,
You're still a great storyteller. That's what I'll tell you.
So that also told me how fascinating how exciting this profession is. That we work with ideas, we work with stories, and we work with, we work all night, but we enjoy ourselves. Yeah. So on that note, thank you all very, very much for this absolutely lively conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Sonal.
No, absolutely.
It's an engaging conversation.
Absolutely. My
It was
pleasure
lovely.
to meet all of you again and, and relive some of the stories. So thank you all for bearing with us, listening to these, getting some nuggets out of it, listening to these long stories, and hopefully some bits came out of it which was useful, which were enjoyable, which were entertaining, which were engaging. Thank you very much. So from Good Ads Matter Roundtable Season 1, bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.